r/AskReddit. What good has Donald Trump done? Exposed a corrupt government. It is good that he has got so many people angry and interested in how the government works. For the 8 years before that, it was just mindless spoon feeding of look how great the government is. And now that the mainstream media is putting a spotlight on how much the government sucks, people are taking notice. You'd think Trump's presidency would be a great way to convince people that we need to give the government less power. But for some reason both us and E's think that once my guy gets in he'll make it right. We'll give him ungodly amounts of power and he will save us. You'd think Trump's presidency would be a great way to convince people that we need to give the government less power. I didn't vote for Trump or Hillary, but I would have picked Trump. Gun to my head though, because of this very reason. I have been wanting to see executive power scaled back since 9/11. He was the only world leader to approve the sale of actual weapons to Ukraine. Everyone's worried about Russia this Russia that, yet when Russia illegally invaded Ukraine and illegally annexed Crimea, the world didn't do it, and every single world leader refused to sell badly needed weapons to Ukraine. I know tensions have simmered down now, but if Russia tries anything in Ukraine again they will have to contend with the best portable anti-tank weapon system in the world, the Javelin anti-tank weapon system. Back in 2014 Ukraine was badly in need of portable anti-tank weapon systems capable of destroying modern Russian tanks and other armored vehicles. People should pay more attention to this. My family is Ukrainian. We hate Russia more than feminists hate men. As soon as Trump helped Ukraine, the collusion question should have evaporated. Trump has done so much against Russia that it blows my mind people still think he is Putin's puppet. Arming Ukraine. Sanctions. Come on. I don't support the knob, but he did sign the Forever GI Bill, which allows me to keep my education benefits for life for service in the military, USA. If you served past the 8th of January 13. Which is unfortunate. But I somewhat understand that they had to have a cutoff somewhere. Some policies I hope most could get behind. The Right to Try Act, if you are considered terminally ill or close to it. This bill gives you access to experimental drugs that may help your condition. The First Step Act gives our criminal justice system more heart and attempts on focusing on rehabilitation and lowering recidivism. Reports state we are close to becoming energy independent in the near future. This is undeniably important when it comes to foreign affairs, allowing us to take a more hands-off approach if desired. New trade deal with Canada and Mexico to replace NAFTA. More protections for us workers. Also has potential benefits for wage increases for workers in Mexico and Canada. Having NATO countries pay their fair share per the agreement, resulting in an increase of $100 billion spent this past year by allies. Acknowledging China as a #1 threat, and the economic imbalance and issues we currently have with them. IP theft is a big issue, and is part of the reason why China has been able to grow like they have. Although no trade deal is in place, I think many can get behind the idea of leveling the playing field. Implementation of steel tariffs to counteract Chinese dumping of steel. Chinese steel is subsidized by their government, as it is a long-term goal to put adversaries' production means out of business. These tariffs grew our steel industry here, which is necessary for long-term national defense. If you cannot readily make steel, you cannot readily go to war. The Child and Daycare Tax Credit allows for parents to receive a tax credit for a percentage of the cost spent on daycare and childcare, thus making it easier for mothers to return to the workforce. Trade deal with Japan and South Korea, which attempt to level the playing field for us companies in attempts to grow jobs at home. Freeing of foreign-held prisoners without using ransom or military force. Declared the opioid crisis as a national emergency. And additionally prodded China to sentence to death any drug dealer/trafficker that ships fentanyl into the US. More people have died from the opioid crisis than died in Vietnam War. I wish we could solve this problem more, but strides are being made. The Right to Try Act should have been common sense for a long time. I'm glad he finally is getting this together. The Right to Try Act only affects a small number of people, but to those people it is literally a lifeline that gives them hope. I wish this had gotten more press. The most comprehensive criminal reform in decades. Many people have been set free. It's something that activists have been working on for decades and Jeff Sessions has been prevented. A watered down version was finally passed thanks to Judd's personal attachment due having family having gone to prison. He should absolutely get credit as it is a good thing he has done. I just don't want credit to get too misplaced. He pisses off r/politics for my amusement. There are still people there to be pissed off. I was under the impression that sub was made entirely of bots. It is. But the boots are angry. Despite the negative press covfeef, it was the best covfeef by any president. Really? Pulled out of the TPP. The document everyone was signing, but no one knew about. Duck you. Should be eye-opening that Reddit screeched about TPP for years until Trump got elected and all of a sudden we had people on here that were for it, just because Trump was against it. Holy hit. Trump doesn't want Disney and Shell to own the world. Duck em. A lot more average Americans are voting on both sides. It's made politics pretty crazy and interesting. A lot more involvement. Same level of being properly informed makes for a hit show. I have friends actually admit, I haven't looked into this and know very little about it, but the Mueller investigation is costing too much. Shut it down. This is almost verbatim. I can't even imagine how someone takes themselves seriously with this mindset. I'd prefer people who refuse to inform themselves before coming up with drastic opinions just not participate. He's inspired a massive increase in civic engagement, and he's done more than anyone to expose the insidious corruption in our system and the flaws in our democratic processes. I think this is one of the biggest things. The amount of money, influence, and power hunger that has been driving the actions of our politicians for years is being exposed. Democrats and Republican rhinos both. Most of them only care about money, power, influence. Why do you think they fight so viciously against Trump? He is bringing these cockroaches to the light. I'm glad to see people realizing publicized political parties on billionaire-owned networks are basically theater companies. Torpedoing the TPP is probably a good thing in the long term, especially with some of the draconian corporate power hit that was in the agreement. Fingers crossed that his blustering "you don't tell me what to do" bullshit attitude might actually get US forces withdrawn from Afghanistan and the Middle East over the howling objections of the military-industrial complex. Hillary Clinton is reactionary and pro-intervention and would likely have the US involved in a major ground war in Syria by this point in her term. I think Trump will eventually lose out to the military-industrial bipartisan foreign policy consensus, as every president has before him. But there's still a possibility he may get the US out of a few countries to the point that it becomes untenable to go back in. Trump is undeniably the most peaceful president of our time. And if things continue this way, it may very well be one of the things he's most remembered for. I don't like him, but I can't deny that he has impressed me with his commitments to pull troops out, and then actually doing it. As far as the thing he's done, I support his decision to back Guaido in Venezuela. I'm not a supporter of Trump, but that move is correct. The regime in Venezuela is destroying the country, as communist dictatorships do. He took a lot of troops out of the Middle East. Last I heard, Congress was trying to block that for some reason. I hope he succeeds anyways. Congress can't get together to decide a budget, or where spending should be allocated. But they'll sure as hell make sure your sons and daughters can be sent to die in the Middle East meat grinder. But hey man, Exxon needs their profits. Addressing the espionage and trade threat posed by China. Everyone keep your eyes on Russia-Chinese propaganda. Stopped Hillary from being present. Edit, thank you for the gold and silver. Best answer. Urban Housing Development Act. This urban housing guy should be the next president. Ben Carson? He tried. Brought media's manipulation of the public into the light. Whether through Russian bots, or through the media lying/slandering him/the US gov while he's been POTUS. I doubt anything will happen with it until he's out of office. But it's brought it into the light, which is absolutely important. Companies/countries shouldn't be able to trick people so easily. Companies shouldn't be able to blatantly manipulate people. Ron Paul N08 opened my mind a lot. losing feeds and placing him below or above where he should be, or leaving him out in general. Things have gone turbo with Trump. Just look at the last few weeks with BuzzFeed Covington and that supposed hate crime in Chicago in -20 weather. I can never really watch the news again without really distrusting them, unfortunately. I remember all of those record-breaking money bombs. Filled stadiums and waiting with anticipation for the news to report it. It was surreal watching the blatant censorship and manipulation. He withdrew from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That was good from a certain point of view. From the point of view that I wasn't someone who wrote it, I agree. Lots of memes. Drawing out the worst element of present-day liberalism into mainstream attention and scrutiny by essentially serving as inadvertent bait for their hatred. As a liberal who hates Donald Trump, I can't disagree with this. He did illuminate what was wrong with our party. That's very big of you to admit. We need more people to be this honest. Put Clinton in her place. Lower taxes. Secured release of at least a dozen Americans from capture. The criminal justice reform bill was epic. Appointed the first female CIA director. Domesticated US energy. Hasn't done anything bad with North Korea. Pulled out the Iran deal. Crippled ISIS. Did not bow to Syria. Recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Got NATO to pay more. Stop using facts, man, it scares people. He is going against the grain by pulling out of the Middle East. This is a good thing. He pulled out from NAFTA, which was also a good thing. Remember when 99% of Reddit had a raging boner of wanting to pull out of NAFTA for years? Pretty sure Bernie campaigned on it too, and the Bernie brothers loved him for it. Trump did it. And Reddit went silent or flip-flopped on it, lol. Yup. Reddit as a whole falls into the orange man bad train of thought. Trump could provide a cure for all cancers and AIDS tomorrow and Reddit would be saying, Trump seeks to kill all people with cancer and AIDS. He kept Hillary out. That was pretty great. Not a Trump supporter. Still agree with this. On another note, it's more infuriating that we are stuck in a two-party system. I wish I had someone going for the presidency that I could fully support, rather than having to pick and choose parts of my beliefs/opinions. He's made people show their true colors fully. The amount of whack jobs out and about is a tad unnerving. Fuel is less than it was 2 years ago. Ohio steel mills are coming back. Lowest general/black/Hispanic unemployment in decades. That's pretty neat. His Twitter is also free entertainment. The things he did to the NAFTA bill is pretty good. Left the TPP and tweets up a storm which increases transparency. America won't all of a sudden deliver some freedom to Libya, insert new country, without us knowing about it. Actually tries to leave Syria instead of posturing. Unemployment down. Economy up. Haters will say it's fake. Almost a good comment till you got super cringe at the end. Pulling troops out of Syria. Sort by controversial for actual answers. Sort by best for laughs. It's hard to tell which political sporting team you play for. Thus I do not know how to direct my unwarranted anger. Stopped hundreds of thousands of potential Islamic terrorists from coming here. Ahem. Moderate Islamic terrorists. He helped smooth over things between North and South Korea. He passed one of the largest tax cuts in history. He is pulling out of Syria. He is presiding over an all-time low unemployment. He kept Hillary Clinton from taking office. He is exposing many of the flaws in our system, whether you like him or hate him. He exposed the shadow government. Big time. He has undeniably exposed the malice and ulterior motives of the mainstream media against everyday Americans. Especially that of the tabloid-style media like CNN.